Having said that, I would now like to introduce our guest, Juan Ontiveros. He is the Associate Vice President for Utilities Management. And that means that he with his team oversees all the energy, anything that has to do with energy at the University of Texas, which, as some of you know, is quite an undertaking. And if you don't know now, you're going to find out in the coming minutes. Juan, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for inviting me. It's a pleasure to be with you this morning.
Good, thank you. So the way that this works, Juan, you know very well, is we start our interview with the same questions we ask everybody, the same 3 questions, and then we close it out with the same 3 questions that we ask everybody. And the first one is always, in 2 minutes or less, tell us your professional story. How did you get to where you are professionally today?
So that's a good question. So I'm a mechanical engineer, bachelor's and master's from UT El Paso 47 years ago. So I've been around a while. Master of nothing, I'm a generalist surrounded by a team of really specialists. I started out as a project engineer on construction projects and been involved with estimating, design, safety, programming, plant startups, and been involved with facilities and plant management for about 39 years. I worked at a mine project, for example, that allowed me to go 2,000 feet underground. I also worked at a service contract on a military base and South Texas nuclear power plant. I've also been managing about 200 employees since 1985. So I've learned my hard knocks there. I learned from my dad that I could do anything I wanted to do if I wanted it bad enough. So all my career, I've been told by many, I couldn't do it. I would not be able to do it. It didn't stop me from trying it though. And I've had to figure out how to do my job, a new job from scratch 4 times. My work here at UT was no different. The first time I walked into a power plant was my interview 25 years. But President Larry Faulkner and Senior Vice President and CFO Charles Franklin believed in me and supported UEM in the process. Failure was not an option. So I had to figure it out. I also felt that if I was going to figure it out, I was going to try to be the best at it. So the system that I inherited here at UT, in actuality, while I had a great record historically, was actually in disarray. It was actually very close to collapse. So I had to convert what was a command and control management approach that was risk averse to a very participative approach that embraced the need to take risk. So I started working in higher ed in 1990 at UT El Paso, and in 91 was the youngest facilities director in Texas at the time. I started working at UT in 1998, first as director of utilities, and I'm now associate vice president. So combined with my service at UT El Paso, I have 30 years of service here.
Wow, that's a great story. What were you mining 2,000 feet down?
So that was shale oil.
Shale.
In those days, there was no fracking. So the concept was if we're going to mine the rock up, cook it and put it under pressure and squeeze the oil out of it.
Right.
In actuality, the plant never went into production. As soon as it was completed, they actually just closed it down.
Yeah, interesting. Okay, next standard question. What do you suspect or know bothers you, bothers other people about you as a leader? Or, and you don't have to answer the first one, but as an alternative, you could just answer, what do you think your leadership weakness is?
So I do my homework. So I can be very determined to try to accomplish something that I believe is the right thing to do. So my thinking is, it's too easy. It's probably just not worthy of trying it. So it's really kind of part of my nature. So as a result, my employees and sometimes my bosses can get frustrated with me because I have the approach that if it cannot be proved to me that it cannot be done, then we got to try it. So it's kind of counter to a lot of people thinking, but that's just how I think and really how we become the thing.
What does leadership mean to you? Which is a big kind of sprawling question, but you personally, when you think of leadership, what is it? What does leadership mean to you?
Yeah, so leadership, I think, is something that you learn. We go through life traversing a pretty windy road, a lot of whys. You have to make decisions. So we have to choose the right path. So I'll give you an example. I tried to learn from both good bosses and bad bosses in my career. I've had a bunch of them, both of them. So after a particularly challenging boss many years ago, not here at UT, I decided that I would never treat people that way if I got the opportunity to lead a team. So thankfully, I've been given the privilege of leading teams and creating teams through my career. So my position has always required that I have to have a very broad scope of knowledge. I knew that there's no way for me to ever know everything. So I learned that I needed to surround myself with people smarter than me. I also learned that I had to be open to input from everyone in the organization. And what this does is it helps to ensure success. But only hard work creates success. It just doesn't come to you. Some people can see hiring people smarter than you as a threat. I see it as a challenge. For me, it's to learn more. I have to learn more. If I don't know what they're talking about, then I got to figure it out. This is a very risky business of utilities. And so this is especially important. So apart from hiring smart leaders, the leaders have to be comfortable in this risky environment that is utilities. And they need to hire people, the employees that are comfortable in this risky environment as well. But most importantly, they have to let the employees do their job. If you give employees an opportunity to contribute and make a difference, and they will be happy and good things will come. So split-second decisions are an essential part of the utilities job. So if some micromanager is trying to control the employee, it can create a delayed decision. So it can lead to a serious problem or even a death or injury. So the bottom line is, my belief is a diverse workforce that has a strong sense of self-worth, has a say in how things are done, has fair compensation, has leadership support that is even-handed, training, and what I call responsible authority. These are all factors for success. You do all that, you will get it.
When you talk about split-second decisions, I think we're going to get into that a little bit more because especially during the pandemic and Uri, those are going to be really important things where people have to really adapt and be agile and know what they're doing, but also that ability to, and I think you're going to touch on this later as well, sort of let people know that, they might make mistakes, but we're going to learn from those mistakes as well. I think that's an important part of your leadership outlook too.
Yeah. So I think it's understanding what we do is part of this really why we do the things that we do. So our team is responsible for producing all the energy. So as you said earlier, that's all electricity, cooling, and heating from natural gas. So with a 135 megawatt power plant and 60,000 tons of cooling and all the systems that we have, we really have the largest microgrid and actually the largest university utility in the country. So we distribute all the electricity, all of it's underground at 30 miles of underground conduits. And we distribute all the cooling and heating and compressed air and a variety of other products all through about 9 miles of tunnels underneath the campus. So if you compare us to cities in Texas and municipal utilities in Texas, we're larger than most cities in Texas. And our utility system is about in the middle. If you consider all the municipal utilities, it's about like 300. We're back in the middle of the bunch, but we're not a municipal utility.
Yeah, right.
So
it's college campus.
Right, it's campus. And so being big is not the important thing if you don't provide solid service. And that's really what it comes down to. So we have the distinction of being among the most efficient utilities actually in the world. We're at 89% annual average efficiency, which is really kind of crazy number to think about. And we've only had 5 power outages on campus in over 50 years. So in fact, what's part of what we're famous for is we use the same amount of fuel, natural gas, that we did in 1976, even though the campus added 10 million square feet. That's what we're known for.
So, and we're expanding now, right? So you're doing more and a pickle, and that's going to require more energy as well, right?
Yeah, pickle's in a little bit different mode. We produce the cooling and heating only, but there the electricity is purchased. But yes, so manage PRC is different than what we do on the main campus.
Gotcha.
So in the department, we have about 190 employees. And so when I talked earlier about being a generalist among specialists, it takes a lot of specialties to do what we do.
Yeah.
We maintain and perform safety checks on about 500 elevators and escalators also. So that's something a lot of people don't know. And also all the energy production equipment, so the turbines, boilers, chillers, we actually do the maintenance work ourselves. And all the complex systems that allow us to work through the tunnels and the underground conduits. So this takes a very highly trained team of people. So that's mechanics, instrument and control technicians, machinists, welders, high voltage electricians, plant operators, network and programming specialists, all and a very, very talented and qualified management team. So you also manage all the underground utilities. So that's the domestic water, sewer, storm sewer, natural gas, compressed air, blah, blah, blah. And as well as a variety of non-potable water that we actually make, and it helps us avoid buying purchased water from the city. It adds up to about like 60 million gallons a year. So it's not an insignificant number.
Right.
And so this is all managed by a different set of specialists. There's mechanics and steam fitters and welders and utility plumbers. So we also track all the utilities to campus, what we produce and what we also receive in the buildings. So we have meters, we have about 1,000 meters. So for electricity, heating, cooling, and domestic water. So this, plus we track all this, plus another 1,000 purchased utility meters. So we also are responsible for tracking all the costs for the main campus, PRC, plus all the remote campuses. And so you can access all this. It's on the website and through our building system. We also have a talented group of energy managers and building energy stewards that have done some really great things in reducing energy use in buildings. And so we're trying to extend the influence of our technical expertise into the buildings so that we can build buildings better, working with capital projects, and so that we protect the interests of the campus. Really, if it's a not very efficient building, takes more for me to produce it, and I don't want to have to. Hopefully, I can avoid an investment. So this is all led by a very talented management team. I have about 11 professional engineers. I'm a professional engineer also, but they lead this group, and also there's a back office work. There's administrative personnel and communications, and also we work very closely with BFS, Business and Financial Services. They're a very strong part of our team as well. So about 170 of those 190 have to be on the job every day, and about 40 work 24/7, 365. That's the operators. They never they've been the way they work 12-hour shifts, and so we also have teams that respond to issues after hours. So we're available all the time, and so only about 20 have could work remotely. So the rest had to be on the job. Those are hands-on jobs.
Sure. Before we get into the pandemic and the response to the pandemic, I do want to point out that, you mentioned how energy, we expanded, what do you say, 10 million square feet? 10 million square feet. Since the 70s. But it's not just square footage, it's how the world uses energy as well. We are consuming and using a lot more energy in a lot of different ways as well. So the fact that, you and your team and all these people have been able to sort of maintain those standards for 50 years or so it's astounding.
Yeah, so that's one of the things about us is when we build buildings, we don't just build buildings. They're laboratory buildings. And laboratory buildings are incredibly intensive in terms of energy use. So we were very focused on trying to allow them to use the energy as efficiently as
and computer buildings. Computers consume an enormous amount of energy.
Yeah.
Like
yeah,
supercomputers.
The computer center, you mentioned PRC. The new supercomputer is going to go over there. It's going to take 25 megawatts for one building.
Yeah, that's insane. Yeah. Going to just be able to see the heat from outer space. Okay, let's get into the pandemic. Tell us how the pandemic unfolded from your perspective. What did it initially look like? Was happening, and when did you when did the penny drop when you realized the gravity of the situation?
Well, it was by the middle of March when all this really unfolded. So, I describe what we do, and so it's a lot. So the priority was for us, we had to continue to provide services but I had to do it in a way that employees were not compromised, that their safety was not compromised. So, because without staff, we don't have anything. The equipment doesn't run itself. You need people to run it. So it was important to make sure they felt safe and that they had a say in how to keep themselves safe. We also had to meet all the campus protocols, but we also had specialized needs. We did this with using a wide variety of methods, really. We used staggered shifts, day and evening shifts, comprehensive tracking of a bunch of work tasks daily, so we can do contact tracing if we needed to. Shop and work areas cleaning was done with manually as well as with electrostatic sprayers. We even went the extra step of hiring an environmental firm to come in and audit us on our cleaning methods. We wanted to make sure we were safe, and if we needed to improve the way we were cleaning, we were going to do it. Because if I lose an operators in the plant, the plants can't run, and you don't get energy. Yeah. So communication was also extremely important, and we learned that from surveys and just talking. We have a very strong employee engagement process, and what we learned was the staff wanted to keep hearing from me and my management team on a regular basis. So we became Zoom experts. We've all had to become Zoom experts, right? And we're doing this now. So we had a lot of regular meetings with groups as large as 110. This is on a regular basis. And so this was an opportunity for me to tell them what's going on. They could ask their questions. There was a lot of back and forth. And so that was the key to getting us to survive. And to this point, we're still doing that.
Yeah. So, and you mentioned this earlier about split second decision making. How did your team respond in terms of pivoting? And how did was there a prioritization process? It makes sense that they would want to hear like a greater frequency or cadence from leadership. And what procedures had to get in place in order to actually implement these decisions quickly?
Yeah. So one of the things about us is that the reason we have the efficiency that we do and the performance that we do, yes, it's people, but our utility systems are also very flexible. It's very resilient. In other words, if there's a problem in one area, particularly, there's a backup for it. I mean, so we have all these layers. I can talk for an hour just about that. But we have to be, so basically we have to be efficient and effective and almost for every condition. So we try to anticipate this. So our role has always been to try and be invisible. In other words, when you flick the switch, it's got to come on. The light's got to come on. So what we do is we apply a healthy dose of paranoia in the design of our systems. What if this? What if that? What if this? But what's most important is you cannot let paranoia control your decision making or how you manage your systems or the staff. I mean, so paranoia in the makeup, not in the decisions. You can't have it there. So this especially paid off for us for Uri, with Storm Uri. We were able to keep our system running for the entire event. A lot of Texas was without power, and we were able to keep the system running. So it takes a very highly trained staff to take what they do for the campus as a personal charge. In other words, it's a chip on my shoulder. This is my system, and they control the energy systems and to provide them and we provide them the tools to be able to see from a central location what's going on, so they can tell what their problems. And so that way they're able to take the appropriate actions when they need to. If there's a problem, they know where they got to go. So our approach in terms of how we deal with issues, most of our employees really, they earn their keep, yes, year round, but where they really earn their keep is when there's problems. So our approach is, if you feel that you have the skill and the knowledge to take a necessary action, whatever it is, just do it. Okay? If you make a mistake, let us know and we'll help you resolve it. But what we do is we learn from it. We document it. We have a very rigorous process that we go through. And we use that as a tool, and it documents it. And then we use that as a tool to teach the others, okay, don't do it this way. And so it's a continuous learning process. Because if you punish people for making an error, he or she, that she may have done for the right reason, then they stop making decisions. And that's the last thing you want. You cannot have that. So Odame Kobina Darkwa is one of our operations supervisors.
Sure.
And he's what I would consider a very perfect example of what it takes, and makes me thankful and proud of our staff. He joined UEM as a trainee, and he didn't know the business. He had technical training, but didn't know our business. Mm-hmm. He completed we have a mandatory training program that is test-based. So it's pretty rigorous. And so now he's one of our operations supervisors, which is pretty crazy. And I'm proud of him. He told me, I asked him after the storm, he was having to be on board then working that night or that week. He told me that during the storm, every single contingency in the controls, dispatch, options, training, and teamwork was used and worked for the storm. So that included operations staff actually sleeping on the floor and working 90 hours straight. They didn't want to go home. This was their system. They were not going to let it fail. Now, they chose to do this. We did not force them to do this. This is what they chose to do, and they felt they needed to do. So anyway, that's really kind of how we did it.
Yeah. You talk about resilient systems and being able to, keep things running, but I think it's important to note, which, we can talk about a little bit in a couple of minutes, but you also learn from, as you mentioned, if you make a mistake, let's figure out what happened. And in 2011, you winterized.
Yeah.
So you learned from that lesson, so that one of the reasons we were able to keep open during Uri was because you had learned the lesson from 2011 to winterize.
Yeah, we've gone through many of those lessons. Actually, the first winter lesson I had was about a year after I started working here. So, really? So I became very sensitized to that. So, But anyway, after 2011, it was somewhat severe, but nothing like what it was this year. But yes, so we did after 2011. We always do after action studies, and we determined, okay, what are the things what went wrong, and we went back and we winterized. So that helped us survive this storm even better. Now we have new opportunities now that this storm brought to us, because this was more intense. So we're in the process of doing all that now, and so that hopefully next time, hopefully our weaknesses are less.
And there will be a next time. So and speaking of which, what does the future look like? As the campus reopens in the fall, to everybody, of course, we've always been open, but what can we expect? We have a lot of different kinds of populations coming to campus, students, faculty, staff, vendors, like a lot of different people coming to our campus for different reasons. What is it going to look like?
Yeah, so it's not just the campus, it's what's happening to Austin, what's happening to Texas. So many people are coming here, and there's so much technical industries out there. There's Apple, there's Google, you name it. They're out there, and they're all playing on our people. But so I live in the energy world, and so I tend to look at those glasses. So my concerns are that the threat, global warming, is going to be a threat. If you look at the issues, what's happening in Oregon right now, in California, that's the heat.
Insanity.
They're going through. People dying. We died in the freeze. They died in the heat. So we don't really have what I consider cogent energy regulators or legislators. They really understand the business. They may be lawyers, they may be good at whatever they do, but they don't understand the energy business. And Texas is unique. ERCOT is certainly a part of that Electrical Reliability Council of Texas. Their job is supposed to be reliability, and they did a very poor job for us. So on top of that, now you have pandemics and et cetera. We don't know what else is going to come. Mm-hmm. And so those are all the things that we've never seen before, right? Mm-hmm. So really what my concern is, will we continue to see the same, which is we can learn from and improve, or will there be another challenge that we couldn't expect? And so that's the issue, right?
Yeah, a lot of obstacles, a lot of threats. Yeah,
right.
And what are you on the other side of this? What are you most excited or curious about when we talk about the new normal or transitioning to the new normal?
Yeah, so I'm, as I told earlier, failure is not an option for us. So we're used to those challenges, but I think going through the pandemic and the storm has shown us that we can work through anything. I think, but we cannot be complacent. Cannot be passive. We like I say, we winterized, but what's the next thing? So we have to continue to stay resilient. We have to make quick decisions, and that's not just utilities. I think the campus, the world, the state has to make quick decisions and be more prepared for what's the unexpected thing to come. The danger that I envision, or I'm worried, that concerns me a bit, is that we already have critical challenges. State funding, all those things, all the environment changes, all the things that are outside influences that are coming down on us, right? And so we have all these challenges, and because we have these pandemics or these unexpected things, that those are going to be forgotten or not addressed. And so you've got to be able to deal with the current issues as well as the unanticipated. And that's the concern I have, is that's going to make life interesting.
Right. So not only preparing for the known, what we kind of know is going to happen, but the unknown and being agile. Right.
Right.
Well, what good, if anything, has come out of all this in terms of leadership or innovation? Is there something good that you've learned or that we can apply to how we run the university or leadership?
Sure. I think it's shown us that not only classes can be taught in a hybrid approach, but we can actually do work in a hybrid approach. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And so I think that's going to cause the campus or the universities in general to think about, okay, how do we use space? How much space do we really need? And it also helps us in managing the workforce better. So hopefully we can improve work-life situations a little better for our employees. There's still certain jobs that can't be done remotely. I mean, that's just the way it is. So I think it's really important, though, is that we just don't go back to our old habits. Well, no, we have to teach. We have to do this way. We have to do this way. We've proven, whether we like it or not, that we can do it a different way. And so let's learn from it and evolve. And I think that thinking is something that I think is a good thing. We've learned a lot from that.
Yeah, don't let a good crisis go to waste.
Right.
What are you? Let's go into our standard closing here. What are you reading currently that you'd like to recommend or that you're enjoying?
Yeah, so I'm an energy nerd, so you have to forgive me for this. It's a book called Perfect Power, and it's written by Robert Galvin and Kurt Yeager. And what they're doing is they're dealing about their discussion is about how the microgrid revolution will unleash greener and more abundant energy. I think that's certainly something. But so Mr. Galvin was the legendary CFO of Motorola, and he brought them back from bankruptcy. So he was very, very famous, very innovative. What's important about this book was written in 2009. Wow. So he was very visionary about microgrids. And so it's very interesting to read about it. He talks about the whole industry and the things that could happen. A lot of things that he says could happen have been happening, but it's a very painful, slow, evolutionary process. It doesn't happen overnight.
Yeah, I've read a little bit about microgrids. It's a pretty exciting subject. What was the hardest thing you have ever had to do as a leader?
Yeah, so first of all, convincing them they could trust me, because I came from an industry that I didn't know anything about this.
Mm-hmm.
So I had to convince the campus to invest about $250 million in the utility system.
Wow.
And these investments were not optional; they were mandatory. The campus was growing; we had to be able to do it to respond to the campus. But I had to figure out a way to do this in a way that they paid for themselves. So we were able to do that, fortunately. So it forced us to have careful and visionary master planning. In other words, I couldn't build just for next year; I had to build for 30 years,
right?
That kind of thing. No option, no mistakes. Could make no mistakes. Had to be stubborn to get the approvals, because almost had to be a thorn in my boss's side to say, okay, Juan, go away, just go do it. Had a very strategic team building process with my staff, the UEM staff, teaming with engineers, contracted engineers, contractors, suppliers, service providers to make all this work. That's what made us what we are now. So to give you an example, one of our riskiest projects was to upgrade the main electrical substation that serves the campus. As we produce the power, we're both connected to the grid. And that's just our connection to the grid. That was an extensive system. And we had to replace all the electrical gear within the power plant without shutting the campus down. That was very, very challenging. And had to be, so what this involved about 1 million man-made connections, each one a potential error, right? And so we did it with we had 2 minor errors that occurred out of it. And so we survived it. And that really given us another maybe 50 years of growth.
Wow. That's great. Okay, to close out, give us 2 key pieces of leadership advice.
Okay, so part of this is lesson. So one of them I say is you must venture out of the cave. So what do I mean by that? So Plato is a very famous Greek philosopher, born about 1500 years ago. So he has something called the allegory of the cave. And he tries to make the point that we can get so blinded by the world we know that all we see is the cave we live in. Mm-hmm. So when outside the cave is the real world with many possibilities, right? So when I started my job at UEM 25 years ago, I didn't have any biases because I didn't know the business. I didn't know we should do this thing a certain way, how things should be done, because I've never done a power plant. But what I clearly knew was I had a lot to learn. So I sought out people and partnerships that did know. So I surrounded myself with people smarter than me, because like I said, failure was not an option. I also did not know we should not even try it. Conventional wisdom said it's not achievable. Mm-hmm. But I and the team, we did our homework. We worked hard to reinvent ourselves, believed in each other, and the things that were outside the cave.
That's great. That's great.
Yeah, so the second thing is don't be a reluctant leader. So reluctant leaders have to fight against their instincts. Mm. They're pushed into a position. They feel uncomfortable doing what they have to do or asked to do. They feel compelled to do things they would rather not. It takes being passionate, taking responsibility, and having good judgment. So that's one part. And so also be skeptical, but dogged in getting through the task if you believe in it. But it's important that you be collaborative. So with that, get outside of your comfort zone.
Great. Get out of the cave and get outside your comfort zone. Juan, I'm so grateful that you have taken the time to impart us with your wisdom. You have done so much for this university, and you continue to do so much. And in particular, looking forward, you have carried us through for the next 50 years. And you are, just a huge asset to our institution. Thank you.
Yeah, but again, I want to emphasize, I'm one person. There's 190 people, and many people before them who were part of utilities that made this. And our leadership allowed us to do the things that they needed to do. We had to convince them to do it, but it wasn't just me. It was the team.
Right. Thank you, Juan. It's great to see you. I hope to see you again soon.
Same here. Take care. Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Bye.